moving forward with our player script, we need to create a function that will enable us to shoot the ball or the rocket when we click the mouse button. So for that, we are going to create an enumerator, which is a coroutine. I'm going to name it shoot the rocket. And the first thing that we are going to do here is we are going to enable our player or disable our player to walk. So can walk is equal to false. Why we are doing it like this? Well, here where we are actually moving the player, so I'm going to copy this whole code. We are going to check if we can walk, then we are actually going to execute all of this other code. Because when our player moves and when he shoots, then we want to stop the player. So like he's, well, walking, then when he wants to shoot, he will stop, then he can shoot, and then he can continue walking. For that, we are going to use this can walk. And we are doing that because we need to play our, well, shoot animation. So here we are going to say anim.play. Anim is our animator, and play will play as the animation that we specify here as a string. So here we are going to specify the shoot animation. Why the shoot animation, you might ask? Well, it's because here in the animator, the name of our animation is shoot, which we can see here in the inspector and also here in our animator. So this is the animation that we are playing. So the shoot animation. And now we need to instantiate our rocket in order to simulate that we, well, shot the rocket. But before that, we need to get our player's position. So here we're going to say vector3 temp is equal to transform that position. So this temporary variable will store the current position of our player. So this right here is the current position of the player. And why we are doing it like that, you might ask, well, if our player is moving, so if the player is moving left or right, so let me just grab the player right here. If the player is moving left and right and we shoot, if he is here, then we want to shoot our rocket, well, a little above him, because we cannot, well, make our player shoot from here, but the rocket spawning somewhere around here. So it makes no logic. And for that, we need to get the player's position. And I'm simply going to use our temp.y just to, well, add 1 so that we can, well, shoot the rocket above it. And here I'm going to use the instantiate function from mono behavior. So here we are inheriting from mono behavior, and the function will practically create a copy of a game object that we provide. So we are going to provide our rocket. So here we are going to provide our rocket. We also need to provide the position. So here I'm going to provide our temporary variable, which is this one right here. And we need to provide the rotation, which is quaternion.identity. Now rotations are represented with quaternions, and this quaternion identity simply means that the rotation will be 0, 0, 0 for the X, Y, and Z axis practically. And this is, well, all regarding our shoot the rocket, or practically when we create a rocket. Now what we need to do is we need to say yield return new wait for seconds, because this is a coroutine and we need to yield and return. And here I'm going to say 0.2 of a second. If this pass, or when this pass, I'm going to set our animator, so set bool shoot to false. Why? Because here I'm playing the shoot animation, and here I'm setting it to false because when I play it, then we are not playing our walk or idle animation anymore. Now we are playing the shoot animation, and in order to terminate it, we need to set this Boolean parameter shoot to false so that we are going to go back to our idle animation, and that's why we are doing it like this actually. So we are setting our shoot to be equal to false, and our can walk will be true again because now we have shot our rocket and we can walk. And the last thing that we need to say is yield return new wait for seconds, and here I'm going to say 0.3 of a second. And here we need to say can shoot is equal to true again. Why is that? Because here we are going to create a void shoot function, and inside of this function we are going to check if our input that get mouse button down. This means we are going to get if we have clicked the left mouse button. So this is going to tell us if we have clicked the left mouse button, that's going to be true. And if that's true, we are going to check if can shoot. So if we can shoot, then we are going to start the coroutine that we have just created. So shoot the rocket. So we are going to, well, actually create, or excuse me, start our coroutine. And we're going to call this one in our update function. So here we are going to call our shoot function. And practically this is it for our shoot the rocket. One other thing that we can do before we shoot, we can here actually use our audio source. So audio source dot play clip and point, and we can pass our shoot clip or sound, how we name it, so shoot sound. So we can pass our shoot sound, and we can pass the position when we want to play it. So we want to play it at our player's position. But I'm going to comment this out at the moment because, well, this is a tutorial and I don't want those shoot sounds playing because it will disturb the audio a little bit. But we can test that a little bit later. Now, in order for this to work, what we need to do is we need to select our player, and here for the script we need to attach our rocket. So we can click on this circle here and search here for the rocket, or we can go into our prefabs and rocket prefab and simply drag and drop our rocket right here. And we can do the same thing for our shoot sound. So here we are going to search for our gun shoot, and I'm going to hit apply, so that applies to the prefab. Now, when we touch or when we click on the left mouse button, we are going to create this rocket, but we see that the rocket is simply standing. And why is that? Well, because we did not apply any code on our rocket. And in order to do that, here in our scripts folder, create a rocket scripts folder, and inside of it create a rocket script. So I'm going to go here in the rocket script, and what we need to do here is we need to have a private rigid body, which is going to be my body. And we also need to have a private float speed, which is going to be equal to 5. And in the awake function, so awake, we are going to get my body, which is equal to get component, passing the rigid body as the component. And in the fixed update function, what we are going to do is we are simply going to say my body dot velocity is equal to new vector 2, and for the x we are passing the speed, and for the y we are passing 0. Practically this will move our rocket, well, further up on the y-axis. So now if we go back, but before that also I forgot that we need to actually apply this script on our rocket. So go here on the rocket prefabs, select the rocket and filter for the rocket script. So simply type rocket and attach the rocket script on our rocket game object. And now when we run the game, if I shoot, we are going to see the rocket, well, being crazy a little bit. So we also need to tweak the settings of our rocket a little bit. So let me take a look at what we did wrong regarding our rocket. So rigid body is okay. If I shoot the rocket, oh, I see what is the problem. I applied the speed here on the x-axis, but it should be 0 for the x, and on the y we are applying the speed. So excuse me for this error that I made. On the x-axis, add velocity 0, and on the y, add velocity or our speed, because we want to move it only on the y-axis. Now when we shoot our rocket, we see that the rocket is shooting like crazy again. For that we need to simply freeze it here on the rotation. So now let me run it, and when we shoot the rocket, we see that the rocket now shoots fine, and well, we actually have everything what we have. And we need to also click on our rocket and set it to be a trigger. So here on the box collider, set it to be the trigger. So this is trigger needs to be checked. And again, if we run the game now and we shoot, we also see that our player is shooting like crazy. That's because here in our shoot animation, I forgot to uncheck the loop time. So simply click on the animation, double tap it. So double click it with the left mouse button and uncheck this loop time. And now we will see a normal shoot from our player, and we also see these animations here. So you can see now the idle animation is playing. Now we have the walk animation, and we are actually shooting our rockets. One problem that we are having here is that you see that we have all of these rockets that we shoot moving infinitely. Now we don't want that, because they are just taking place in memory, but they're not doing nothing actually. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a new game object from our ground. So simply copy the ground and paste it, and we are going to rename it to top. And I'm simply going to put it around here. And I'm also going to tag it as top. So here I'm going to say top, and we also need to create for our ground. So here I'm going to create for our ground, and here I'm going to create for our top. And this is going to be the tag for our ground right here, and this is going to be the tag for our top. So simply move it a little bit here. And now what we are going to do, in order to detect collision, so now when we shoot our rocket, and if I go here in the scene, we see that it passes through this collider of our top game object. So again, it passes through that collider. Now, in order to detect the collision between them, and for that we have checked this is trigger on our, well, rocket. What we need to do is here in our rocket script, and I'm simply going to give a little bit of space so that we can see what I'm doing here. Here we are going to create void on, so on trigger enter 2D, and this is the function that's going to be called when two colliders collide and one of them is a trigger. And this takes a parameter which is a collider 2D, which I'm going to name target. So when the rocket touches, so I can shoot again and quickly go here in the scene. So I missed it. So let me just select the top, shoot again, and here when I pause it now. Now when the rocket touches, well, our top, so we see now that these colliders are overlapping. Anyway, when the rocket touches, well, the top of our, well, collider like this, then we are going to call, or this function right here is called automatically. So on trigger enter is called automatically. What we can do here is we can check with which game object we have collided. So we can say if our target dot tag, so the tag of our target game object, and the target will be the game object that we have collided with. In our case, our top game object. So if the tag of that game object is equal to top, what we are going to do is we are going to destroy our game object. So destroy the game object that's holding this script, in our case, the rocket. So if I go back now and notice now in the scene, when I created a rocket, we are going to see that we have a rocket created. But now when the rocket touches, we see that the rocket now touches our top, and I'm going to demonstrate it like this. So going back here, shooting, when it touches the top, it disappears. It's actually destroying itself. So I'm just going to clear the console here because it's annoying me. And it's destroying itself. So we see that when it touches the top, it destroys itself, and that way we can clear that game object out of the scene right away. It will not take any memory and it will not slow down our game. So this is for this video. Practically we are done with our player. We will need to add some more modification a little bit later for our player and for our, well, rocket. But now what we need is we need to create our ball script, because if we run the game now, we see that our ball is not bouncing at all. We want to create a bouncing ball in order to shoot it. So we are going to do that next. If you like what you see, comment, rate, or excuse me, not rate, share. So comment, share, like, subscribe, tell your friends who want to learn game development. Plenty of new videos are coming, so stay tuned. Videos are like this, practical examples where we create a game that you can actually play. So tell your friends, tell anyone who wants to create games, share this on your social media. Again, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.